Save the schizophrenics. A mentally ill person can be recognized by their hair. The maliciousness of one of the worst mental illnesses comes from the fact that it is very difficult to recognize in the early stages. Many symptoms are unclear and can easily be confused with the symptoms of other diseases. However, mentally ill people now have a glimmer of hope, thanks to a new discovery by Japanese scientists. They recently noticed, while studying the brains of deceased schizophrenics, that their tissues contain more hydrogen sulfide than is typically found in healthy individuals. Nobody had previously thought that there might be a connection between hydrogen sulfide and schizophrenia, explains the study leader, Takeo Yoshikawa. The enzyme responsible for the production of hydrogen sulfide is called MPST, and this is what the scientists are trying to identify in living individuals as well. And how does it turn out? Surprisingly, they find it in greater amounts in the hair of schizophrenics. In fact, the more severe the form of the disease, the more enzyme is found in the hair. Why do we find unhealthy food so tasty? Why do we eat so much fatty, sweet, and overly salted food? Because it tastes good. But why does it taste good? Because our brain tells us so. And if we ask for the third time, why does our brain instill such an inappropriate thought in our heads? There can be many possible answers, but one of the most interesting would be provided by evolutionary biologists. We need to go back to the time of hunters and gatherers. They of course did not know sugar, the only sweet thing at that time was ripe fruit. The riper it was, and thus more suitable for consumption, the sweeter it became. So, to know when a fruit was ready to eat, humans gradually learned that sweet is good. And what about fat? Fats are essential for survival and our brain needs them, but the body cannot synthesize them on its own. Therefore, evolution made sure that humans would get used to eating fat. It's the same with salt, which is necessary for regulating blood pressure. The problem is that we've come to like these components too much. How many moons does Earth have? You might be wondering how silly that question is when we have the answer in front of us every night. Our moon likely formed about 4.5 billion years ago after Earth collided with a protoplanet called Theia. However, a moon, in the sense of a natural satellite, can form in a less drastic way. The planet simply captures a smaller body from elsewhere in space through its gravity. Mini-moons are then formed, such as 2006 RH-120, which orbited Earth for about a year, starting in July 2006. Or 2020 CD3, which orbited the planet for about 3 years before escaping its influence in May 2020. Both of these mini-moons are a few meters across, so it's possible that there are many more like them. These objects usually orbit the Sun, but occasionally a planet borrows one. Why are sleep-deprived people irritable? The bad mood after a sleepless night is caused by the white matter located beneath the cerebral cortex. It is this that affects the mental state after a lack of rest. Scientists from the University of Arizona studied the brains of 45 volunteers. The study showed that individuals with more intact and solid white matter are much less prone to nervousness and anger after a sleepless night. What does happiness look like? How many forms does happiness have? According to American scientists from the University of Ohio, a total of 17. If we understand it as a satisfied expression on the human face. A new interesting study focuses on distinguishing facial expressions and is based on earlier findings that emotions are observable on a person based on the blood flow around the nose, eyes, chin, and cheeks. Now, the scientists take a list of more than 800 words expressing emotions, present them to people from 31 countries, and use computer algorithms to track their expression. And what did they find? First, that we can combine facial muscles in more than 16,000 ways, but also that there are only 35 facial expressions that we can specifically read. 17 of them are associated with feelings of happiness and joy, whether accompanied by sparkling eyes or dimples around the lips. In contrast, we only have 3 expressions for fear, 5 for sadness and anger, and just 1 for disgust. This is a very pleasing finding, summarizes one of the researchers, Aleix Martinez. A smile is simply the most pleasant for humans, and we have every reason to use it more than any other expression. What is the greatest G-force a human can survive? G-force is essentially the force that acts on a person as a result of acceleration. It is represented by the letter G. For example, a pilot weighing 70 kilograms experiences 3 times their weight, or 210 kilograms, during a gravitational acceleration of 3g. Under greater G-forces, pilots can suffer from memory loss, paralysis, or difficulty speaking. The tolerance of trained individuals to G-force is around 9g. Zoo of microorganisms. What can we find in household dust? Our homes are ecosystems, says co-author of the study, Noah Fierer, a microbial ecologist at the University of Colorado. People live in homes with amazingly diverse microorganisms that they can't see. Scientists analyze dust collected from both the interior and exterior areas of about 1,200 homes in the USA. They use DNA sequencing to accurately identify the species found in the dust samples. They discovered more than 125,000 types of bacteria and 72,000 types of fungi. The fungi varied according to the temperature and humidity of the areas, while bacteria were more dependent on the number and type of inhabitants in the house. Most of the microbes are harmless, and some are even beneficial. Larks or owls? Rearrange your biorhythm. Are you active late into the night and then have trouble getting up in the morning? No one can blame you, you're an owl. Does this apply to you too? Our internal biological clocks are governed by the activity of hormones. For a long time, it seemed that we could hardly change this. Or is it not so? If you're tired of being an owl and would rather become a lark, try to get inspired by an experiment conducted by British and Australian scientists. They guarantee success in just 3 weeks. The night owls tested, who normally go to bed around 2:30 a.m. and wake up after 10 a.m., were tasked with waking up 3 hours earlier for 3 weeks. No coffee after 3 p.m., no food after 7 p.m., and going to bed 3 hours earlier. And the result? The new early birds suddenly achieved the best mental and physical performances in the morning. Why don't some trees catch fire? After the fire, the cypress trees remained green. In 2012, a huge fire swept across the area studied by Spanish scientists Bernabé and José Moy. Among the charred trees, however, stood a group of cypresses that were undamaged by the fire and still green. This led scientists to investigate the flammability of trees. Determining the exact flammability is important if we want to assess the threat level to different plant species. Evergreen cypresses are able to maintain a high water content even during the summer, which prevents them from catching fire. Buffer zones made up of less flammable species could help protect nature during fires. In a new study, they discovered that evergreen cypress is relatively resistant to ignition in both the trunk and crown. It is able to maintain a high water content even during the summer. Why do some birds walk and others jump? Some birds exclusively hop on the ground, meaning they push off with both feet at once. Others alternate their legs and walk normally. Why has nature equipped them with such different abilities? It is true that songbirds tend to hop, while birds like starlings, geese, quails, or crows walk. Generally, the larger and heavier birds, which would use too much energy for hopping, prefer walking. Small songbirds also spend most of their time in bushes and trees. They hop from branch to branch with both feet at once because it is faster for them, and they continue to hop on the ground out of habit. Hopping is mostly seen in sparrows, finches, and tits, though even among hopping songbirds, there are exceptions. For example, the wagtail tends to walk, as it searches for insects in the ground and needs to move in smaller steps.